Is this a divine delay, meaning God is working some things behind the scene, or is this a demonic distraction? Is it, okay, wait a minute, do I need to do some warfare against the enemy, and also even some things with myself, warfare against maybe some of my own bad habits or my own reasons that have caused my own delays? There's so many conversations that are being discuss while we're on our way to that journey, to that thing of attainment, whatever it is. But these are honest things that they keep us balanced, they keep us with a right perspective, and they keep us moving forward, because our God is always taking us forward. And sometimes to move forward, we need those little prompts, those little questions, because many times our answers, our deliverance is in the questions. What are we saying to ourselves? What are we asking ourselves? Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer. Thank you for tuning in. On today's episode of Life's Journey with Jen, I'm going to talk about unmet timelines, particularly the frustrations that's associated with unmet timelines, but also the joy that can be experienced. Yes, we can experience joy in the midst of our unmet timeline, but also I'm going to talk about a possible cause of unmet timelines and that frustration that's associated with it. So, thank you for listening. I hope you stick to the end, and let's jump right in. I've talked to so many people lately who are experiencing frustration. And at the root of much of the frustration I'm finding is because of unmet expectations or unmet timelines. And we've all done it. It's part of the human experience. And what I'm referring to is those things, those statements that usually start with, I thought. I thought I'd be married by now. I thought my career be further along. I thought I'd be out of debt. I thought I would have lost weight. I thought I would have had a baby. I thought I would have started my business. I thought surely by now, this is a good one. I thought surely by now God would have given me the promise he said. I thought I'd be whole and healthy. We could go on and on. You could fill in the blank because you're human. So you've had those same I thought statements, and I'm no different. But I want to talk about what do we do and how do we manage and what we should not do when we have those I thought moments. First of all, let's deal with what you shouldn't do. And some of us have that inclination to do it. We have that, we turn on ourselves. We're disappointed. We're frustrated, and we feel like I'm a failure. I didn't do enough. Maybe my dream was too big. Maybe I should just shrink it a bit. We have all these internal conversations we have with ourselves. Nothing wrong with talking to yourself, but what are you saying to yourself? But so hopefully you're not beating yourself up. And if you are, let me give you a little bit of help to let you know you're not different, first of all, from any other human being out here. But also, God knew we were going to have these disappointments and these frustrations. The Bible even tells us that when we're disappointed, it makes our heart sad. It makes us sick. And it really does. It's okay to have that emotion, and we're going to have it regardless. But here's the thing. With that emotion, we want to take that and realize whatever that thing is we thought, or those things we thought would happen or should have happened, sometimes it's not time for them to happen. We have these unmet timelines. And what I want to say about an unmet timeline or a timeline that maybe is not healthy. First of all, an unhealthy timeline is one that you set that you honestly have no control. For example, I know this is a touchy one for some, but you thought you'd be married. Well, you can't make someone marry you. You thought you'd be married by age 30, and that's realistic. I mean, it's not unheard of. It's not crazy, but can you really make someone marry you? And God's sake, you don't want someone that you had to make marry you, but that's another conversation. You want someone that wants to marry you. Can you really make someone hire you? Your part in that is showing up your best self, being prepared, having the skills you need, but you really can't make someone hire you. Can you make yourself lose weight? Okay, you have some control in that, because we can determine what goes in our mouth when we exercise. There are things that we can control, and there's things we can't. So it's going to be very important that we make a clear distinction between What do I have control of and what don't I have control of? The other side of things, we have to ask ourselves, are we really ready for the things that we're wanting? I mean, have we done our part to prepare for those things? And it's not all just skill sets. Yes, sometimes you may have to learn a skill. If it is a job promotion, okay, is there a skill you need to learn? If it is indeed your career, is there a different technique? Are you up on modern technologies or social medias? Whatever it is, you know those things in your life. Is it getting out of debt? Do you really know how to get out of debt? And even let me pause a moment for get out of debt, because that was one of my things. I can remember in my life, my husband and I, we had debt. So we did the typical things that you're supposed to do. We knew in our head, cut back on spending, save money, increase your, all the things, increase your income, all the things that you know to do. It was in our head. And notice I said in our head. But if I was honest, it wasn't always in our heart, meaning it didn't always translate into a practical action. So an example of that would be, okay, we should get out of debt. We should modify our spending, get a budget. Wonderful strategies, wonderful things to do. But we also, truthfully, still wanted to have the same lifestyle we had. We still wanted to spend the money. We still wanted to go to places. It wasn't even consciously, but we realized that habit of doing what we wanted to do and still have something different, it was there. And sometimes when I'm talking to other people, they're dealing with it too. And you know what that really is? That I can't say so much that it's this disappointment as much as we were delusional. Because there are many times things we want, we are going to have to make a change. If you're desiring a healthier body, a healthier lifestyle, and a healthier mindset and mentality, well, we can't just keep eating the same things or moving the same. We can't keep doing what we've been doing and want something different. But I want to be fair. Maybe you're the person, look, I've modified my budget. I've modified what I'm eating. I realize I can't control someone else, but I'm being prepared to be a good wife for the man I want. I'm being prepared to be a good husband for the woman I want. I'm doing the skill sets. I have the degrees. I have the training. I'm prepared for what it is I want, but I still don't have it. I'm still disappointed. Where there are some things, yes, we have a timeline. But God also has a timeline. And we're fine when the two match and merge, but sometimes they don't. Those are the things we cannot control. You've done your part, you're ready, and it just hasn't happened for whatever reason. So how do you manage that? Either the person who, okay, I have these different expectations, and if I'm honest, I'm not really showing up the way I should. Or I'm the person, I have these expectations and I can say honestly, I've done what I'm supposed to do. Both still frustrated. Well, the beautiful thing with that, which though is beauty in the sense that one is common to every human being. But the other side is, I've already told you, God knew it was going to happen. But the word of God tells us the joy of the Lord is our strength. Because what do we need many times when we're dealing with a frustration of something and the disappointment? We want strength. And what I mean by strength, it may not always be physical strength, obviously. Many times it's emotional strength, it's mental strength. It may be even financial strength, depending on what it is. But it's that strength that helps us to know, take a deep breath and then know it's okay. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out. There's things I have to do. There's things I can't control. But in the meantime, my life does not have to be on pause because this has not happened in my timeline. Because I can promise you, though some things have not happened in your timeline, if you look at the totality of your life, there are many things that are happening that are great in your life. Focus on those things. But then also, when we realize that joy is our strength, it's interesting. There's another scripture that says Jesus is our strength. What if we replace that with Jesus is our joy? I mean, honestly, but I'm going to take a minute just to say, what is joy? Because many times when we hear the word joy, we think happiness, we think fun, we think all the great things. But honestly, that's not what joy is. The Bible is clear. Joy is strength. And we know the story of Paul and Silas when in prison. I mean, you think about prison, it was the darkest hour of their lives, and you're dealing with these things as though many times we could feel when we're not experiencing as though, especially if it was a really big promise or expectation we wanted. And I mean, it honestly knocked the wind out of us. But when you have that confidence of knowing, wait a minute, even though there's this disappointment, there's this deep hurt, maybe it's grief, loss, whatever it is, I can still be okay God is still with me. Life is still going to continue. There's still hope. There's still peace. There's still joy. Because like Paul and Silas, during that time, I mean, I've never been in prison, but I could almost only imagine being anywhere and I can't get free. I can't get out. I can't make my own choices. I can't do what I want to do. And that's taking my freedom. It's taken away from me. But what did they do? We read that Paul and Silas, they sung praises to God. They worshiped God. It was like it was the fun time or the happy time for them because it was a choice they made. Like us, we have choices to make even in the midst of unmet timelines and disappointment, all of those things. And I want you, first of all, to understand that you are empowered. You can make a choice. And the reason I know two people can go through the exact same thing. One person is looking at it one way and experiencing the same disappointment, but focusing on other things in their lives that's working, looking at, is it something they can do different? Another person may look at it as though and almost feel so depressed, so depleted and hopeless and give up. Same situation, different choices, which will ultimately lead to different outcomes. I want you and I say myself, because even though at this age and stage in my life, I've experienced many disappointments. I've experienced those moving timelines. I can look back and say, either they all were met, even though it may have been different than my timeline. And I'm going to be honest, some things were not met. But it's interesting, they don't matter now. They don't matter. Some of the things that were not met don't matter. Some things have not met, but I'm still holding on to the faith and the confidence and doing my part to know they will be met. They just haven't met yet. They have not occurred yet, but they're coming. And then some things I realized, you know what? I don't even want it anymore. It was important at one point in my life, and now it's just not that important anymore. But those are things that as individuals, we have the freedom of choice to determine what different things mean in our lives. But most importantly, that what do we mean in our lives? And what I mean, because you should mean a lot to yourself. Your first value, you should have value to yourself. And for the main reason God thought enough of you, he thought, let's put it this way, he thought you were enough to die for. And he gave his only son to die for you. So that right there gives you value. But the fact that you're on this earth, you have value. So in that point, I want to say, let's say you have these moving targets and the timeline has changed. It hasn't happened. I would like for you to take time to, first of all, think about not so much about the fact that it hasn't happened and that, but let's move forward, because we always have to move forward in life. But think about, one, what does it mean to you for it to happen, first of all? So let's say, for example, I'll take a low-hanging fruit, get out of debt. What does it mean for you to get out of debt? Okay, well, I don't want to fill in your answer, because it's your answer. But let's say for myself, during that time, thank God we're not there, but during that time, it was freedom. I could breathe. The pressure was released. I could make choices for myself or for my family. So those are wonderful things. But then I had to ask myself, what did it mean eternally for me to be out of debt? I think it felt like I was being responsible. It felt like I was making better choices. Okay, but let's take it to something and that's something I have control of. Because remember, I said distinguish between those things you have control of and the things you don't. But let's say it was you want to be married, or you want to start a business, or you want a promotion at a certain time. Some of those things you don't have control over in the sense of the exact date that you're going to meet that person and fall in love. So let's say you have a desire to be married. What does it mean to you, first of all, to be married? And what does it mean to you if, trust me, I'm not raining on your parade, but you have to go there. What does it mean to you if you do not get married? Beyond the disappointment. And what I'm looking for there, what I hope that you can be able to say, well, did you equate being married to some kind of way it makes you a better person? It makes you lovable? Meaning some people, I've had conversations, if I don't get married, the more we peel back the layers, it really what they were saying, nobody chose me. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't lovable. And that's not true. But I don't want to tell you what should or should not be truth until you deal with what's truth to you. So it was truth to this person. You might say, well, getting married will make me I want to experience my life and joys with someone else. I want to have kids someday. I want to expand my family. Okay, that's fine. But you fill in the blanks of what does it mean if it happens, if it doesn't happen. you have control of that. The same with a promotion. You apply for the promotion and you really felt you were qualified. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes you find out the other candidate that got it, in your mind, you know you were further qualified. You were more qualified. You were more considered. You just felt you were the better employee. And in fairness, maybe you honestly were, but you weren't chosen. What does it mean to you to be passed over? Are you and I okay when sometimes it's not the other person did anything? It wasn't the hiring manager. It wasn't that guy or that woman who didn't choose you. It was God himself saying, I don't have that for you. I have a different promotion for you. I have a different expectation for you. I have a different person for you. Only thing I can tell you for sure about God, if he has something different, his different always equates to better. God never has something for us different that's worse than what we thought. It may feel like it because, of course, we think we know best. But we have to remember, even in planning our timelines and planning our life, which we can do, we still have to be open. If indeed we say we are believers, we are children of God, we have to understand he has a plan and a preordained destined for us. So we have to still make sure our plans are lining up to the backdrop of God's plan. Different conversation. But let's just say, for example, because I'm going to do a lot of these because I want us to really think. And sometimes the way we think, we have to have these different prompts because sometimes we may not have always thought about something in a different perspective. And many times it's perspectives that need to be different, or even honest conversations of, why do I want X, Y, Z? Fill in the blank and whatever it is. And keep it in mind, this conversation is regardless of age or stage in life. It's more about a human experience. So it's also a good idea to think about previous disappointments you may have had. Something didn't meet a timeline, but now you have that thing or you've accomplished that thing. And at the time, it seemed like it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. But then you look back, you know what? I really am living in a house that I thought I wasn't going to get a house, or I really did get my college degree. It seemed like it wouldn't happen. Or maybe it's I really finished high school. I thought I wouldn't. You fill in the blank because our life stories, they're unique. The only thing that's common to us is that we all have moments of and seasons and times of a sheer joy and excitement and fun. And we have those times and seasons of disappointment. It's how we manage it. It's how we manage our emotions. It's how we manage ourselves. Is God really talking to us in the process? And one thing I know about God, even in the delays, He's always there. And many times he himself is the cause of the delay. Sometimes it's us. Another thing we have to look at, am I the cause? Is God pausing? I'll give you a little bit of strategy I use for myself when something is in a delay. And I don't care if it's a really big goal for my life or if it's something as simple as I'm sitting at the airport and the plane was delayed. I always ask myself, okay, is this a divine delay, meaning God is working some things behind the scene, or is this a demonic distraction? Is it, okay, wait a minute, do I need to do some warfare against the enemy, and also even some things with myself, warfare against maybe some of my own bad habits or my own reasons that have caused my own delays? There's so many conversations that are being discuss while we're on our way to that journey, to that thing of attainment, whatever it is. But these are honest things that they keep us balanced. They keep us with a right perspective, and they keep us moving forward because our God is always taking us forward. And sometimes to move forward, we need those little prompts, those little questions, because many times our answers, our deliverance, is in the questions. What are we saying to ourselves? What are we asking ourselves? So, well, a quick example of that. You're disappointed. Things went wrong. And if you started, what's wrong with me? It always messes up. I just keep messing up. And why do I keep doing this? Well, that may not be where you want to start as much as, could I do something better? Let me look at this and see, is there a different way? Do I need to modify my timeline? Because sometimes we have unrealistic timelines. We just have, I want to, especially if you're a person that's prone to be in control, you want to have the time for this, or you're super organized and you want to have the time. And I said, we're going to do this. And by March 2024, this is going to happen. All these different things because I'm a take charge person. I want to be in control, and I'm a can do, make it happen type person. Those those are great skills, but they're not going to serve you in your best capacity if God himself has a different timeline. Or maybe you're the opposite person. You kind of chill, maybe even a bit on the lazy side, a little passive with your goals, and those are negative things. And you say to yourself, oh, why do I keep being lazy? Why do I keep being just saying I want this, but then I'm praying for something, but then I'm not working for it? Why do I keep doing it? All of these different things, you have to determine what's a good question for you and what's a bad question. And by now, many of us, depending on where we are in life, we know ourselves. If you're a very young person starting out, this is opportunity that you're getting to know yourself. Learn from your mistakes. Things that work, continue to build on those. Build those things deeper in your life. Things not working, toss it aside. But again, with myself, I've had so many things that have worked, and I realize and I take comfort in the fact some things haven't happened, those things that I still pray and believe they will. I take comfort in the fact, look, they just haven't happened yet. Because I've seen so many things that didn't happen in my timeline, but they did still happen for my life. So I'm going to encourage you, look at your life. Look over whatever that frustration is right now in your life. Okay, ask yourself. We said, first of all, is it something I have control over? Is it something I don't have control over? Is it something that I need to change in the process? Is there another skill? Is there what do I need to do to make this work if I have the control? And if I don't, then my challenge is to release it and trust God for the timing, for the way, the process, everything. I have to trust God. And we've all heard trust the process. Well, that's a real thing. We many times have to trust the process, manage my emotions, manage who I am in the process, and also celebrate and remember things that didn't work before in the timeline, but they still happen, or things that didn't work in the timeline and they really don't matter now, and I'm still okay. I'm still here to keep going forth, to keep maintaining a sense of stability and calmness, because God is never pushing us into anxiousness and anxiety and depression. Those are never emotions from God. Although emotions, God has given us emotions, but the enemy also would love to come in and manipulate those emotions where we go down a wrong path, down a dark path. So the thing is, I encourage, we have to stay in the Word of God. We have to keep a sense of balance. We have to understand this is not something that's uncommon to any other human being that's out there. It's just part of that human experience and where we're going in life. I want to pause for a moment and talk about comparison as it relates to unmet timelines and the frustration associated with it. This is when you compare your timeline to someone else's timeline. And what I mean by that, and we do it. I mean, I don't want you to feel bad that you do it, because we do it. And that's when you're like, you see your friend, she or he finished school, they have this great job already, they have their family, they have their kids, or this person started a business and it seemed like theirs just picked off and they're booming in their business, and you're still trying to build yours. And today with social media, it's impossible, honestly, to not compare ourselves. And comparison of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if I look at your life and now feel bad about my life, that's when it's a problem. And then also, I have to remember, as you do, when you're looking at someone else's life, and especially when you don't know people, which often happens on social media, you're just seeing the part that they choose to show you. Sometimes you're coming in the middle of the story. And what I mean by that, there's different people on social media that I would watch or listen to, podcasts, whatever. And then I found myself, even though I knew better, but I found myself, if my business wasn't at a certain level, or if something I was working on didn't somewhat mirror theirs, at times I felt like I wasn't doing enough, I didn't do it right or whatever. But upon further investigation, I realized sometimes those stories of, hey, I did this, I did that, and now I'm making whatever, X amount of money, an insane amount of money a month. But then I find out, wait, you had a corporate background that you already had built a certain skill set, a certain confidence, a certain network before you launched your business. Or maybe you had a degree in that or whatever. You have exposure to people that I may not have access to, whatever it is. But I found out it was more than just they started like me and I'm starting like them, so I should be where they are. It was more to the story. And that could add to our frustration for unmet deadlines, unmet timelines. So I want us to be very careful with that comparison piece. The dates that you set for yourselves or the goals that you would set for yourself, make sure it's realistic, but also it's your goal, it's your timeline. It's the timeline with God, which I'll pause for a second again to say, what's the timeline for God? Is this something for me? Just sit down, be quiet a little bit, pray, listen to what God is saying, listen to how he's guiding and directing you and showing you those instructions, because he loves you. He will give you instructions. He will give you strategies on whatever to keep you within the timeline, increase your timeline, or let you at least respect the timeline in which you are operating in, so that you don't turn on yourself and feel bad about where you are or are not. Also, I want to remind you in this phase that while we have these unmet expectations, and we already discussed, it's common to everyone, it's going to happen, but God still loves us. We're still worthy. We're still people of value. We're just in our unique individual journey. And then that someone's watching you. Someone is watching you. There's always someone watching how we do life. And many times we don't know. Let me give you an example. So you're waiting for a job and build your business, because that's something that takes a little bit of time. You've been waiting for a while to get married, waiting to have a child, waiting to get out of debt, whatever. But we're talking about things that have taken maybe a little bit of significant amount of time. You weren't in that journey by yourself. Those close to you have been in that journey, and they're watching how you're doing life, because guess what? They're in their own unmet timeline frustration. They're in their own journey, or they soon will be. And if you're a parent, your kids are going to watch how you're doing life. So while we're waiting, we're frustrated. What should that look like? And I don't want us to get into this, I should be robotic, I shouldn't have no emotions, I should always run around, oh, well, the joy of the Lord is my strength, I'm so happy. I don't want that. Guess what? People are going to see you cry in that journey sometimes because you're disappointed. That's okay. People are going to see you be disappointed, but turn to the word of God, turn to the power of prayer, fasting, whatever those spiritual disciplines you use to navigate life. And they're going to see you're okay in that process. They're going to see moments when you're not always okay. But keep in mind, people are watching and God is watching, because he knew that these timelines, these disappointments, all these different things were going to occur. In fact, sometimes he's ordained for them to occur just so we can see who we are. We're going to get angry, but can we sin not in the midst of the anger? Can we still be able to have a living testimony where people can see, you know what, I can tell you truly love God. I can tell the presence of God is with you. The peace of God is with you. We get to see, do we really believe the things we tell other people? Do we really believe the God that we serve still loves us? Do we believe he has the best for us? And that means sometimes to help us, we just have to know, one, disappointment and timeline shifting is going to occur. We have to also know that it's not unique to anyone else. We have to take time to, again, look at, am I in control? If God is in control, we're going to look at, am I comparing myself to someone? Is it okay that I have my own timeline? Because if I'm not okay with my timeline and okay with the process, I'm going to turn internally against myself. And worst case scenario, you don't want to think God doesn't love you and God is not for you and God was just working against you. Or maybe you got something in prayer, or you believe God and you knew it was going to happen, and now you feel like God is just toying with you, which he never does. He's a loving father. He just has better for you, better timing, a better thing. And sometimes it's not even about us not being ready. He's preparing that person. And I don't mean just in the case of a spouse. Maybe he's preparing someone is on a job that God has for you right now. Someone is living in the house that God has for you now. There's things that, different moving parts, different people, there's a preparation we have. There's a preparation that God has, but we have to maintain our joy, maintain that posture of faith and belief that is going to happen, maintain we're loved, and realize eyes are watching us. And remember, we are believers. We are ambassadors of Jesus Christ. So we should always be promoting his message, his word, and we can only do it in how we do life and in the decisions we make. And that's in the good times and in those times where it's disappointing. And then we also are going to celebrate others. Maybe this is just their season, their timing. They may have the manifestation of the things we're waiting and been waiting for, but we can still celebrate them, realizing if God gives it to them, it didn't subtract from what he has, because in the kingdom is always multiplication. So he can bless you and still bless me. He can bless your friend and still bless you. There's no lack of resources. So when we know that and we take that posture and that position and know the God we serve, respect the process and the journey, and respect even the fact that we're learning better skills, we're developing our character, we're looking more like God. And remember, others can watch us and see God and see Jesus in us, because we are to be imitators of Christ. Then only can we really enjoy this journey while waiting, even in the midst of unmet timelines.